Hey guys, so in today's video I wanted to show you how to crochet this little pig head. I added this little ring here because I wanted to attach this guy to my backpack because I have a huge obsession with keychains, and this pattern is pretty simple. The only difficult part you'll probably have if you're new to crocheting is the magic circle and probably attaching these little parts on. Other than that, it's pretty easy and super fast to make. This was actually supposed to be for my bunny head. I made this pattern a while ago and then things just came up, so I took the top portion of the bunny head and just basically did that for my pig here. And yeah, I love how it turned out. And what I used was a crochet hook. I have this in the size 4.5 millimeters. I have my stitch marker here. And the yarn I'm using is obviously my 1 pound yarn, my favorite yarn. And then you need some black yarn for the little nose part here. And then you need some safety eyes. I don't know the size of my safety eyes because I get mine from Wish. So they come in a pack like this. But yeah, feel free to use whatever size you like for the eyes. To begin our project, we're going to need to create the magic circle, and if you need help on that, I do have a separate video where I go into a bit of a slower explanation, so if you do need help, please check that out. But here, I'm just going to go over it quickly. What you're going to do is just wrap your yarn around your fingers. Well, this is what I do, and then I'm going to take my hook and insert it into the circle and pull some of this yarn through. So now I'm just going to yarn over my hook and pull through. And then I like to work with a smaller circle. So what I'm going to do is take this yarn and just pull it, and that will shorten my circle. So now we're going to single crochet 6 times into our magic circle. How to do that is to insert your hook through the circle. How many times have I said circle so far? Pull some yarn through, yarn over, and pull through both loops. So that is a single crochet. So I'm just going to do that 5 more times and I'll show you how to end this off. I currently have 6 single crochets into my magic circle, so to end this round off, we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch. So this is my first stitch. I will take my hook, insert that, and pull some yarn straight through both loops. And then I'm just going to take my stitch marker and insert that into my last stitch, and that is the end of round 1. And then every time you begin the next round, you just simply go into your next stitch. There's no chaining or doing anything like that. Just go into your next stitch. Okay, so for round 2, we're going to increase in every stitch, so you'll end up with 12 stitches in total. So to increase, you're just going to single crochet 2 times into the same stitch. So that's 1 and 2. So you're going to continue to do that all the way around until you end up with 12 stitches. So moving on to round 3, we're going to increase in the first stitch. So that is 2 single crochets. And then we're going to single crochet into the next stitch. Lost my voice there. So you want to repeat that step all the way around until you end up with 18 stitches in total for round 3. So remember, it's going to be an increase into the first stitch and then a single crochet, and then you just repeat that. For round 4, we're going to increase into the first stitch. And then we're going to single crochet into the next 2 stitches. So 1, and then my next stitch, and then you want to repeat that all the way through until you end up with 24 stitches in total. So it's going to be an increase and then 2 single crochets. And if you follow me, I used to start with the single crochets and then my increase, but I find that I like the way it looks with increasing into the first stitch. So every time we start this, it's going to be an increase if you prefer it that way, but that was just a tip I read on Pinterest. It kind of just makes your circle more even. I'm not sure if anybody else feels that way, but now it's just stuck in my head to increase first. Okay, so for round 5, we're going to increase into the first stitch, as I mentioned earlier, always starting with that increase. And this is going to be our last round of increasing. So after you increase into the first stitch, we're now going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. So after this, you just want to repeat that all the way around until you end up with 30 stitches in total. So again, it's going to be increasing into the first stitch, single crocheting into the next 3, and then repeat that. After you finish your last round of increasing, what you're going to do is single crochet for the next 5 rounds. So that's just going to create our length of the pig's face, and then we'll move on to decreasing. I'm now back after finishing the 5 rounds of single crochet, and this is how it looks. So that was, my last round was round 10. So moving on to round 11, we're going to decrease, and we're going to do an invisible decrease for the first stitch. So to do that, we're going to take our hook and insert it into only the front part of the stitch. So just like that. Now we're going to pull some of this yarn through, and then we're going to do the same thing into the next stitch. So just the front stitch, not through the whole thing. Take some of that yarn through. Now you have 3 loops. So what you're going to do is yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And then we're going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to show you the invisible decrease one last time. So we're going to take our hook into the front part of the stitch. So just to show you a little bit closer, then we're going to grab some of that yarn through. You have 2 loops. Then we're going to do the same thing into the next stitch. Yarn over and pull through. So I'm going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches, and then repeat that until I end up with 24 stitches in total for round 11. To begin round 12, we're going to start off with our decrease again. So it's our invisible decrease into the first stitch. And then you want to single crochet into the next 2 stitches. And then you're going to repeat that until you end up with 18 stitches in total for round 12. So our decrease and then 2 single crochet. Okay, so moving on to round 13, you want to start off with a decrease again, or invisible decrease. And then you want to single crochet into the next stitch. And then you want to repeat that all the way through until you end up with 12 stitches in total. So decrease, single crochet, decrease, single crochet. Once you finish that round of decreasing, you're just going to cut off some excess yarn because you still need to close this off, but we need this to have an opening because we're going to stuff it with some fiberfill, and then we want to work on our ears and nose. And I like to leave it, you know, at this amount because I still like to stitch it in this way instead of just working it on top of this, but that's just my preference because, you know, that's just what I want. But anyways, let's move on to the ears. Before we get started with the ears, I wanted to say that I do have an Instagram. I just made it. I have like 0 followers, but if you're interested in looking at my pictures, it's called Hooked by Jacqueline, and yeah, I just have all my crochet stuff in there, so follow if you like, and thank you if you do. To start off with the ears, we're going to need to do our magic circle, and the ears will be a little bit difficult because it's going to be, you're working with a smaller round, so you know it's a little bit tighter. And for the ears, we're going to just single crochet into our circle 4 times. Similar to the pig head, we're just going to end off this round by slip stitching into our first stitch, and then placing your stitch marker into that last slip stitch you made, or the slip stitch you made. And then as you can see, it is a little bit smaller, and I made this easier on myself by increasing on the next round, but you know, that's why my ears turned out like this, which I think it's fine, but I usually don't like to work with smaller projects because it really puts a lot of pressure on my fingers and it kind of hurts, but I really love mini projects, so that's my dilemma. Anyways, unnecessary story, but next for our second round, we're going to increase into every stitch, so you'll end up with 8 stitches in total for round 2. So increasing, of course, is just 2 single crochets into every stitch. Okay, so I'm gonna do that off camera so you don't have to watch me struggle working into the small circle. Okay, so I just finished round 2 and this is what it looks like. So what I do here is just kind of push this out just like that, so you know it's easier when you work in your rounds. And then I'm just going to do about 3 more rounds of just single crochet just to create the length, and it should naturally just curve out. And well, depending on how long you want your ears, I don't know if you want this shorter or longer. You don't have to do as many rows as I did, but I'm just going to do 3 rows to create this length. So go ahead and do the off camera because it's just single crocheting to create the... Okay, so after you finish 3 rounds of a single crochet, this is how the ear will look. And you know, it is very round, not as much like this right now, because what I do here is I'm going to flatten it up and then I just pull out the sides a little bit just to create the shape that I want. And then yeah, that's how it looks now. Pretty similar. You can, you know, pull the top up a little bit or whatever, and then after this you want to cut off the yarn, and then I'm just gonna pull where this loop is, just pull it out, because this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this part right here to attach to the pig head. And then of course you need 2 of these, and then now we're going to move on to the nose. Before we start with our pig's nose, I just want to put this out as a disclaimer. It is probably going to be a little bit confusing because I struggle like working with this myself. If you've seen my other pig video, you know that I was struggling. So with this one, I made it more circular and I'm working in a chain, not a magic circle. So with the other video, I was following someone else's pattern and I just could not get it right. So this one, it is, you know, of course I made the pattern, but it's still hard for me to explain. So sorry about that beforehand. What you first need to do is start off with a slip knot. So the way I do a slip knot is I take my yarn and just hold it like this. I twist it, and when I'm pulling through with this yarn, this is the yarn that you're going to continue to work with. So you just pull it through like that. I then take my hook and insert it into the circle, and I pull down just like that to tighten it. Now I'm going to do a chain of 3. So 1, a chain is just yarning over your hook and pulling straight through. 2 and 3. So next we want to single crochet into that middle chain. Okay, now we want to single crochet 3 times into this last chain. So 1, 2, and as you can see, when I'm going to single crochet this, I'm also turning my work. 2, I'm now at this side, and then 3. Okay, so now that you're on the opposite side, you want to single crochet into that middle stitch right there. It's kind of hard to see, but it's basically the middle one, similar to what we first did on the other side. Now at the end here, we're going to single crochet twice into this last stitch. Sorry, let me do that again. So 1 and 2. So this is what it looks like so far. Now we're going to single crochet into the next stitch. We're just going to expand this circle a little bit more. Single crochet into the stitch after that. Okay, so once you get to around this corner, when you're curving, you want to do 2 single crochets into the next stitch because you want it to naturally curve. So the next stitch, we're going to single crochet 2 times. 1 and 2. Now let's single crochet into that next stitch. This is how it looks expanding, and then single crochet into the last 2. So 1 and then 2. And this is what it looks like. So now you can just cut off some of the excess yarn. Remember to leave some so you can sew it onto your pig. I also just wanted to mention with this back piece, you can just cut it off. You don't want to have too many loose strings. It's going to be hard to sew. And then with this, I'm just going to pull my yarn out and then I'm going to sew this around. But before I start sewing it, I'm going to take my black yarn and I'm just going to make the little nostrils. So for the black yarn, I do have a threading needle here, and then what I'm going to do is I already attached one side. So next I'm going to take my yarn and then I'm going to attach it to the other side. I'm starting from the back, so back here, and then just placing it wherever I think it looks right. If you can hear snoring, that's my dog. And kind of like that. I'm gonna fix the other side because I think this one looks a little bit better. But yeah, you're just gonna basically insert it into the nose and then tie it at the back. I'm gonna redo that one. Once you have all your pieces done, you can sew everything together. The first thing I usually do is attach the ears because I feel like it helps the placement of your nose, like how high or low it should be or what sides to go. Also with the ears, I like to start off, so wherever you have your yarn that you're sewing it onto, I put that at the bottom. So the bottom or the side of the face right here, and then I sew up that way. And then it just helps, I feel like it looks better, like because if you go this way, I don't know, the ears are a little bit too pointy for me unless you like that style. But yeah, I'm just going to start off with the ears facing like this, so I will sew from the bottom up. I'm not going to show you exactly how to sew because if you've seen all my videos before, I'm horrible at sewing, so I'm just showing you my tips. But when you attach your yarn to your threading needle, you just find the placements. So I like to do 2 rounds and then I place it. So basically that one and my magic circle and then that next round, and then this is where I'm going to place it. So I just take my sewing needle and just place it through just like that. I kind of just let it go because let the ears go because you can pull it out that way. And then basically you just fix your ear like that to make it straight. And then you want to go back through, not the same stitch, of course, because you don't want to loosen it, into something close by. Let's do this right here. And then I go straight through the ears to the other side. And then I go basically repeating that all over, going in and out and sewing that to the head. So I just finished attaching the ears and this is how it looks. Next I'm going to attach the nose, but I'm not showing that on camera only because it's basically the same process. You're just sticking the nose on here and going in and out with your yarn and attaching it that way. After that, I'll put on the eyes and then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so once you have everything attached, you just want to stuff your project, your little piggy, and then we're going to close it off by decreasing all the way through. So you don't need a stitch mark or anything, you're just decreasing. And we're not doing an invisible decrease because it doesn't matter too much at the bottom. We're just doing a normal decrease. And if you forgot, I will show you right now. You will insert your hook through the stitch, pull some yarn through, go to your next stitch, pull more yarn through. Make sure you don't pull the stuffing. And then yarn over and pull through all 3. So you just want to continue to do that until this circle is closed. Okay, so I feel like this is closed enough. What I'm going to do is take my yarn and just pull it out. Actually, I'm going to take this string and insert it into the circle just so I can make sure that's secure. And that basically just make sure it doesn't get loose. And then I'm going to go into the stitch across from it and pull this yarn and kind of tighten it like that. And then I'm just going to do that to another stitch, pull it through, but this time I'm going to take this loop and this string and just pull it through just like that. So just make sure it's secure and then you can cut it off or stuff it inside and then you'll be done. Once you finish closing down the ends, you will be done with your little piggy. You can add a little keychain ring if you like, or just leave it like this and do a little collectible thing. But yeah, this is the finished product. Isn't it so adorable? Pretty easy too. Anyways, thank you for watching.